And the winner is becoming a family. We did a poll and you decided that you wanted to hear about us deciding to have Finley Binley.
Well, let me take you back to the very beginning of time.
Okay.
No, as we've discussed before, Grace and I had been together for 12 years, and it's not like we were talking about having a child back when we were 13, 14. But I think both of us have always known that we wanted to have children. I think probably separately, even before we met each other. It's one of those things that either you want as you're a young person, or you don't even think about it until you're much older. And I know personally it's something that I knew I always wanted, which is a weird thing to say.
I think we both kind of assumed, didn't we? I don't feel like there was ever a conversation of will we, won't we?
Yeah.
It just always seemed to be in the picture for the future.
Yeah, I think when you think about, for me, when I thought about marriage, I thought about children, thought about family. So I knew that I wanted to marry Grace. Therefore, I knew that we would probably want to have a family together someday. So there's that. That's sort of taking you back to really early days, where it was just like an idea in our heads.
Yeah, and then we got married. We got married in 2015, so we've been married for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we were both really young, so here he is. Yeah, we were both really young, so well, I was 22, you were 21, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we were at a stage where we still wanted to have adventure, and we'd never lived together before, and we'd done 3 years long distance as
Mm-hmm.
well, so we just needed a bit of time to know who we were together. So that's what we did. We've had some really good travels, haven't we? I think
we have.
my favourite was last year, because we knew by this point that having a family was looming, so we did a really random journey across America. We went to New York, we went to Washington, then we went to Nashville. Then we went to Seattle, and then we finished by getting the most beautiful train I've ever experienced, up to Vancouver, and the scenery was insane. And it was things like that obviously they take up time and money, and I'm so glad we did it before we had Finley, because we want to show him the world, but we also needed to be us and be adventurous before we had him.
Yeah, and we'd probably have to wait ages once we'd had Finley to actually do that trip, so
Yeah, definitely.
it made sense to do it then.
Yeah.
And I've always liked the idea of having a human that looks a bit like me as well. So, like, for both of us to have a child that looks a bit like Grace and a bit like me was always a really nice idea. It was always something that I wanted.
And less scary than face swap as well.
Yeah, we've done that. Maybe we'll put a picture up of our face swap, our famous face swap.
Here you go.
Yeah, that's not what Finny looks like.
Enjoy that. And I think our family probably expected us to have kids sooner. I know my friends definitely did, because they knew that I'd wanted to be a mum for such a long time. And by this point, you know, we've been married for nearly 5 years and together for 12. So it seems like time is ticking on for us, but actually we had so many things that got in the way. Stuff happened with your job, didn't it? So
yeah, I had lots of stops and starts with jobs. I talk about that in another video as well. Agency work, so there just wasn't, I felt like there wasn't a sort of fixed length of time ahead of us where it was wise for us to start a family and bring someone into that world that we didn't really know what was going on.
No, we didn't feel rooted enough, that is for sure. We didn't feel rooted in terms of job for Daniel and for myself.
Yeah.
And then home-wise, we're now in our first ever home that we have bought, and it is such a blessing. But we have moved 7 times within our marriage. So not just within the last 12 years, but within our marriage. And by the time that we were thinking about having a baby, we were living with someone else. We were lodging. So, yeah, there were just lots of obstacles in the way. But then come September last year, we started to think about it, didn't we? Last year? 2021. 2019.
Yes.
2019.
Yes, 2019. And at the time, Grace was planning to spend some time studying. So it would be a block of time, like 3 years. So we had that at the back of our minds as well. So knowing that Grace was going to study, we decided to try to have a child before that started. So we gave ourselves a little window, and we said we're going to try for this time. If it doesn't happen, that's fine, but that's what we're going to go for.
Yeah, and the reason we gave ourselves a window is because we again wanted to be wise about how we were going to raise this child. So I didn't want to be at a point where I was about to go and study as soon as the baby was born.
Yeah.
Not just myself, but for if family were going to be taking care of them. You know, you don't want to land your family with a newborn and assume that they are happy to take care and help out. Or, you know, chuck our newborn into nursery straight away. That's not something we wanted to do.
We had this little window in our head of January to July of 2020. 2020, just a write-off, isn't it, in our heads? So in our heads we said January to July is the period we're going to try and have a child. Just timing-wise, that means we can get that done before Grace moves on to anything else. So we went to God in prayer and we said, God, this is our plan, this is our sort of idea, and have your way, you know, with it. Let your will be done in this time, because I think that's how, you know, God wants us to work with Him, to sort of work alongside Him, to come with our ideas, but to allow Him to have ultimate sovereignty over it, ultimate control over it, because we believe that He wants what's best for us, which is why we did that. Yeah,
and also, if we didn't have a baby last year, it would have meant that we would have had to have waited how many years? About 4 years, wasn't it, by the time I finished studying? And although we gave a really small time frame, because obviously we didn't know what to expect, we didn't know if we could have children even by this point, but actually that is where the faith step came in of, okay, God, your timing is right, so either we might not be able to have children, or we wait 4 years, or we'll put it in your hands and it can happen now.
Yeah.
And as you well know, it happened. It definitely was a shock, wasn't it?
It was a huge shock.
Because I have huge health anxiety, so for me that involves a lot of being able to trust my own body. So I had already assumed that it would be a massive deal or not possible for myself. And actually the shock really shows in this video. Can you get the spider? Are you okay? What can you see? So for context, I found out the day of a student weekend away that I was running, which was a really, really unwise time to take a pregnancy test. For any of you itching to take one out there, do not do it before you need to do something important, because you won't be able to concentrate. But for some reason, and there was no kind of Mother Nature reason, but for some reason I just felt like I needed to take a test. And it was positive, and I was by myself at the place that we were staying, and
She didn't wait for me. She didn't even wait.
No, I didn't. I took a test and it was positive, and I had to think about a creative way to tell Daniel. And for those of you that know me well, you know that I can't deal with spiders. They make me cry like a baby. I'm really sorry, I know it's childish, but I cannot do it. In fact, I don't know why that wasn't my pet hate on the video last week, because they really are.
That's not really a pet hate. That's just like a burning fire of hatred. It's quite high level hatred. It's not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's fair. So, because I hate spiders so much, I know that whenever I say that there is a spider around, Daniel will come running straight away because he knows that I will be a mess if it's not dealt with straight away. And he was on his way home from work, and I said, Daniel, there is a huge spider in the sink. I've shut the bathroom door. Please can you go in there as soon as you get in and get rid of it, because I really need to use the bathroom. All a complete lie, because what I'd actually done is put the pregnancy test in the sink. So he comes in all frazzled from work, head in the clouds, thinking he's going to deal with the spider, and then we're going to pack up quickly to go on this weekend away.
Yeah, and that's not how it worked out. It took me by complete surprise. I had no idea that Grace had even taken the test. She didn't tell me, and I was so shocked, genuinely so shocked to find out that we were pregnant. Similar to Grace, I wasn't expecting it to happen so quickly, and not for the same reasons as Grace. I just had it in my head that it was going to take a while. We've had friends, for some people it's taken a lot longer, so I didn't have a time frame in my head, so I was completely surprised, and I'm also really thankful and really grateful for that, because I'm aware that for some people it doesn't work, and they've had to move on, and that can be really painful. So we don't want to take that for granted as well. So I don't want you to take this as gloating or anything like that. We're genuinely really humbled and really grateful that that's how it happened for us.
Yeah.
But it was a complete surprise. And I was just thinking about like, okay, what does this mean, and when's that going to happen? What month they're going to be born? And you just start having all these thoughts. And I remember just looking at Grace, and there's like our whole relationship just flashed before my eyes. It was so strange, and we were both just looking at each other, and you didn't know what to say.
Did you have a good nap? Did you have a good nap? And this is our Finley Binley, and we would introduce him to you, that we want to protect his little world. So that's something that we're going to keep for our friends and family.
Yeah.
But one thing that we did have to keep really secret for a long time was obviously that we were pregnant, and especially in this weekend where we went straight off with a group of students, having just found out that I was pregnant, and we were constantly in a room with loads of other people. So every time we had a minute alone, we had to just be shocked together, or when we were driving to the venue, just kept talking about that huge spider in the sink as a code.
Because we had other people in the car with us.
Yeah.
And if you're watching, then I hope you remember it. You can laugh about it.
Yeah.
If you remember the time I talked about the spider in the bathroom, that's what we were talking about. Hey?
And also we went to the pub that night for dinner, and I couldn't drink, and I ordered something with blue cheese in it.
Grace always drinks.
And I had to panickedly Google whether I could eat blue cheese. Turns out I could, because it was cooked and it was glorious. But all these things that suddenly I was having to think about, and that's how it all began. Here we are with our little 3-month-old now, and we are so blessed and looking forward to sharing more stories with you of winging it, because that is predominantly what it is. Of being supported by family as much as possible in our little bubbles in flipping COVID.
Yeah.
And I think just taking things slowly, aren't we? I'm not studying now. We're holding that off for a little while after all.
Since Finley's been born, I've had a real realization of how when we decide to have a family, you don't know what it's going to look like, and you have an idea in your head, whether it's based on your friends, close friends, or your family, or films, or anything. You have an idea how it's going to look, but you just have no idea really what's going to happen, and you don't know the extent to which it takes up your whole life and the day-to-day element of it. So our decision was to have a family, but it's kind of like it's a leap of faith, like for everyone who decides to have a family, because you're making the decision to change everything, to have your world turned upside down. Wow, that's a new noise. So yeah, I mean, when you say we decided to have a family, you don't really know what you've decided. You've just decided to take a leap of faith, and you've decided to choose each other, and you've decided to choose to sacrifice your lives for someone that you've never met and you won't meet for however long later after you've tried to get pregnant. So it's a crazy thing, but we're so glad that we did it. And as tiring as it is, as life-changing as it is, as much as it turns everything upside down, it has genuinely been so worth it. And I know that as time goes by, it will become more and more worth it, and those sort of negative aspects will fade further and further away into the distance. So that's our story, and we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for letting us know what you wanted to hear. You guys have sent in loads of ideas of what you want to hear about. We've got a long list, so over time we'll do a couple more of those polls. We'll give you some choices, because we want this to be a sort of interactive thing. So yeah, let us know if you've got any more ideas of things that you want to hear about, and yeah, stay tuned.
In the actions of Daniel McSharry, what did you say last time?
Take it easy.
Take it easy. We are not cool enough to sign off like that, but we have.
We have. Bye.